Welcome back to part 3 of our human body systems project and notes that we are taking in class. If you turn to the page after the muscular system, you should see the digestive system, unless the pack that I'm looking at happens to be completely different, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, digestive system. In order for our bones and muscles to work together to move, help us grow, give us our shape, and protect our body needs to have energy. And the way that we get energy, unlike those producers, we need to get energy through eating, and we get energy from vitamins and minerals. And we get that from the food that we eat. Now, we can't just open a compartment, shove in a pizza, and expect it to turn into energy. We need a system to break that food down into those different nutrients. And we have organs inside of our bodies to do that, and this is going to be made up of the digestive system. The digestive system acts in different stages. It starts immediately when you put food in your mouth. When you start thinking about that yummy food, your favorite thing, and your mouth starts to water, or it's just about lunchtime and you're getting ready to go in there, and as soon as you hit the cafeteria and the smells of the cafeteria and the food in your lunchbox, your mouth is watering. That's the beginning of digestion. Obviously, our teeth and our tongue are part of that. We swallow the food. Our esophagus is in there. It goes into our stomach. Things happen in our stomach that we'll talk about, and then it gets moved down into our intestines. It goes through the small intestines and large intestines, and then it makes its way back out of us with the waste. And again, if you look here, it says the entire length of our digestive system is about 20 to 30 feet. It's a pretty long way when you think about that. That's a long trip for food to make as it goes through our bodies. So the digestive system's main organs, when I look at this in the muscles, when I go backwards and I look at the skeletal system, we weren't writing a lot in main organs. This time we are going to be putting quite a bit. Look at the amount of space that we have on here for the organs. And then the function of the digestive system seems to be a lot smaller. So that's something that we're going to think about. So we have the teeth, the salivary glands, the tongue, the esophagus, stomach, intestines. And each organ has a very special part in breaking down food. So we need to dig into those different parts of the digestive system as we move on. Again, like I said, it kind of starts when you even think about food. I think about maybe walking into a good pizza place like Mellow Mushroom and Boiling Rock or Boone, and just smelling the pizza dough and the sauces starts to make your mouth, quote unquote, water. Well, this water is coming from your salivary glands. It's actually saliva, and saliva is not water. It actually has special enzymes in it that start to break down food. And it's kind of interesting how that works while it's in your mouth. And again, so that is going to work in conjunction with your teeth. So the saliva and your teeth are working together. So as you start to chew and the saliva is in your mouth, it is starting to break down the food. Your teeth are breaking that food into smaller chunks that you are able to then swallow, which makes it easier for you to digest. Again, like we said, you can't just open up your stomach, lay a piece of pizza in there, and expect things to start digesting. That's not how it works. With the digestive system, you have to have things being broken down into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces, which makes it easier for your entire digestive system to get things worked out. We need to go back to talking about some involuntary muscles. So you are chewing up the food, the saliva starting to break it down. Food doesn't just like fall straight down our throats. Again, another organ, the tongue, helps to push food to the back of your throat and into another organ called the esophagus. Now, the esophagus is just a long tube that leads from our mouth to our stomach. And again, the food doesn't just fall down that pipe. There are involuntary muscles that are along that that help to kind of push that down in a process called peristalsis. We'll talk about that a little bit more when I get back into class. Again, so involuntary muscles push this food down into your stomach. While this is going on, there is this little flap that kind of blocks food from getting into the pipe that takes oxygen and to your lungs and carbon dioxide back out of your body. This little flap is obviously very, very important, because if you've ever taken a drink of something or maybe a bite of something and then you start coughing like crazy because you feel like you're choking to death, and somebody might say it went down the wrong pipe, that's what happened. The flap, that epiglottis, did not do its job completely at that time. Maybe it was just off a little bit. Food is not actually going in there. It's just your body's reaction when that flap doesn't close all the way. But again, there's another muscle in there working for us to help us out. But again, those involuntary muscles are pushing the food all the way down into our stomach. Now, in the stomach, food's going to sit there for maybe 4 to 6 hours. And while it's in there, there are all these digestive juices that are going to break the food down even more. So remember, when you start chewing the food, the saliva is going to give it some moisture, and you're going to chew that up. You're going to swallow it. It's going to go into your stomach, and those involuntary muscles that surround the stomach are going to kind of churn everything up a little bit and break that stuff down a little bit more. The stomach is also a very important place, because if there happens to be bacteria, like bad bacteria, it's going to be broken down in the stomach with all those acids as well. And so the stomach's going to break that down and get the food ready for the intestines. It's going to lead into the small intestine. And again, the first part of the small intestine is going to get some juices. That sounds gross. It's going to get some juices from the liver and the pancreas, and it's going to continue to break down food for us a little bit more, which I think is extremely important. So as we are breaking down the different parts of the food inside of our small intestines, it's going to lead into the second part of the small intestines, where you're going to be able to absorb a lot of those nutrients, which is the reason why we eat food to begin with, and that's going to be deposited into our bloodstream, which will lead to how the digestive system and the circulatory system work together. And then that food is going to be moved into the large intestine. This is the last stage of the digestion of food. The large intestine's main function is to take out any of the water that's left in food. And so when you have the large intestine, if you aren't drinking enough water, and the large intestine is going to try to take out as much of the water from your food as possible, that's when people can get constipated. If there's some crazy thing where you have too much water, that's where people might have diarrhea. And so it's very important that, again, that the stomach's breaking down those bacteria, because you don't want to get sick. It's also important that we are having a positive intake of water. Like, we need to be drinking water as much as we can, because we need to keep our body hydrated so that our large intestine can do the function properly. Again, any of the food that the body doesn't need is going to get broken down, and it's going to leave the body as waste. Can't watch that. And we're going to stop there. So let's go and take a look at what we need to be writing down for the main organs and their functions. First and foremost, we have the teeth. Teeth is the first stage in the digestive system as we chew. As we chew the food and we break it up into little pieces, again, as we are chewing at the same time, the salivary glands are producing saliva to help us start breaking down those bits and pieces of food. Then we have the tongue. The tongue is there to help us push the food to the back of our throat and down into our esophagus. The esophagus is that tube that leads to our stomach. Our stomach is where food sits for 4 to 6 hours, and while it's in there, there are enzymes and acids and things that are breaking it down into the proteins that our body needs. Once that sludgy stuff from the stomach gets dumped into the intestines, we are going to then be able to work with other juices from the liver and the pancreas to continue to break down the food and get those nutrients out, which is the whole purpose of digestion to begin with. Those nutrients are then deposited into our bloodstream, and that's when the circulatory system is going to move those nutrients around to the body parts that need it. And then we're going to move on to the large intestine. Again, the large intestine has kind of two purposes. One of the big ones is to get out all the water that we need out of the foods that we eat, and then to take any of that stuff that's left over, the waste, and help us get that out of our bodies. All right, so let's talk about the function of the digestive system, which I think is greatly implied in all of the things that the organs do. It tells you their function. But if we had to break it down into like one small little paragraph, it would say that the function of the digestive system is to break down food into nutrients that our body needs. Those nutrients are then deposited into our bloodstream. That should say stream. And then the circulatory system takes over, and it moves those nutrients throughout the whole body to the places that are needed. That will be it for the digestive system. I'm going to go ahead and let you know that moving here to the excretory system, I'm going to skip that today. And in the next video, I'm going to move into the respiratory system. That will be it for the first video, and we will see you in the next.